The ship shook violently as the alien weapons hit it again and again, held onto the metal railing and watched the emergency lights flash red. Around him, his were shouting, trying to keep the vessel alive, but already knew they had lost. Earth's first deep space exploration mission was supposed to be humanity's greatest achievement. 12 astronauts, 3 years of training, a journey beyond the solar system. Nobody expected to meet anyone out here. The universe was supposed to be empty and quiet. It was not. The warship was 5 times larger than their vessel. It appeared from nowhere, weapons already charging. There was no warning, no attempt to communicate. The aliens simply attacked. When the hull finally broke open, felt the cold of space touch his skin for just a moment before the emergency barriers activated. Then came the soldiers, tall creatures with pale blue skin and silver eyes. They moved like water, smooth and fast. Their armor seemed to glow from within. Did not fight, there was no point. He watched as his captain, a brave woman named Park, tried to resist. They struck her down without hesitation, not dead but broken. The aliens were not interested in killing. They wanted prisoners. The crew was separated immediately, caught one last glimpse of Commander being dragged in a different direction. Her eyes met his for a brief second. Then she was gone. They put in a small cell with white walls that seemed to glow. For 3 days nobody came. He had water but no food. He slept on the cold floor and dreamed of Earth. He dreamed of his mother's cooking. He dreamed of his younger sister, who had died during the initial alien contact incident 2 years ago. A scout ship had crashed near Seoul. The explosion took her and 47 others. Had joined the space program because of her. He wanted to understand. He wanted to find meaning in her death. Now he was a prisoner of the very creatures who had taken her from him. On the 4th day they came for him. 2 soldiers escorted him through long corridors filled with strange light. He saw other prisoners through small windows. Humans, all of them. Some were crying. Others stared at nothing. They brought to a large room where an in fine robes sat behind a floating desk. The alien studied him with those silver eyes, saying nothing for a long time. Then it spoke. The words were strange, but a small device on the desk translated them into Korean. You did not resist. Remain silent. Your companions fought, they screamed, they begged. The alien tilted its head. You did nothing, why? Thought carefully before answering. Fighting would not change anything. You are stronger, I am not stupid. The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. Practical, unusual for your species. It waved its hand and a holographic image appeared. The Imperial Palace, a structure so large it could fit a city inside. You will serve there, the alien said. Manual work, cleaning, carrying. You will not speak unless spoken to. You will not look at your superiors. You will be invisible. Do you understand? Understood. He was to be a slave. If you cause trouble, you will be sent to the mining colonies. The average human survives there for 2 months. The alien smiled, showing teeth that were too white and too sharp. Be grateful. The palace is a mercy. 3 weeks later, arrived at the Imperial Palace. It was more beautiful than anything he had ever seen. Towers of crystal reached toward purple skis. Gardens floated in midair, filled with flowers that sang when the wind touched them. Rivers of light flowed through the halls instead of water. And everywhere moved like ghosts, nobles in shimmering robes, soldiers in glowing armor, servants who kept their eyes down and their mouths shut. Was given simple gray clothes and assigned to the Eastern Wing. His duties were exactly as promised. He cleaned floors that were already spotless. He carried boxes that machines could move faster. He was invisible. They did not see him as a person. To them he was furniture, a tool that happened to breathe. Noble lords walked past him as if he did not exist. Ladies laughed and gossiped while he scrubbed tiles at their feet. Once, a young noble spilled wine on his head just to amuse his friends. Did not react. He simply wiped his face and continued working. but was not just a servant, he was watching, learning. He memorized the patrol routes of the guards. He learned which nobles had power and which only pretended to. He discovered the hidden passages that servants used to move unseen. He studied the language until he could understand most conversations. And he noticed things that others missed. Like the small girl who sat alone during grand feasts. She could not have been older than 6 in human years. Her skin was pale blue like all, but there was something different about her, something missing. While others had a soft glow beneath their skin, she did not. She looked dim, faded. Nobody spoke to her. When she walked through the halls, servants looked away. When she sat at the royal table, chairs around her remained empty. Once saw a noble woman pull her child back when the girl approached, as if she carried a disease. The girl never cried in public, but saw her eyes. He recognized that look. It was the same look his sister had when children at school called her names, the look of someone who had learned to hide their pain. He learned her name from whispered conversations. Princess Lyra, daughter of Queen, ruler of the Empire, the most powerful woman in 12 star systems. And yet her child sat alone, surrounded by hundreds of people who pretended she did not exist. Told himself it was not his problem. He was a prisoner, a slave. His only goal should be survival, perhaps escape if the opportunity came. But every night when he lay on his small bed in the servants' quarters, he saw her face. Those sad silver eyes, that forced smile that fooled nobody. He thought of how she used to hide in her room after bad days, how he would sit outside her door and tell her silly jokes until she laughed. Was gone, he could not save her. But Princess Lyra was here, alone, afraid. And something inside, something he thought had died with his sister, began to wake up again. Learned the truth about Princess Lyra from an old servant named. The elderly was one of the few who treated with something close to kindness, perhaps because they were both invisible, perhaps because loneliness recognized loneliness. They were cleaning the great library together when finally explained. The princess has the fade, whispered, checking to make sure no guards were nearby. She was born without the light. Did not understand the light. Touched his own arm. Beneath his blue skin, a soft golden glow pulsed gently. All carry the light. It is in our blood. It shows our connection to the ancestors. The brighter the light, the blood. Remembered the nobles he had seen. Their skin glowed like lanterns. The queen herself, whom he had glimpsed only once from a distance, shone like a small sun. The princess has no light, continued. Her blood is dark. To our people this means she is broken, cursed, a mistake. She is a child, said quietly. Looked at him with tired eyes. She is a symbol. The royal family is supposed to be perfect. The queen's bloodline stretches back 10,000 years. Every ruler has carried the light. He shook his head slowly. When Lyra was born dark, the court saw it as a sign, a warning that the royal line was weakening. Why does the queen not protect her? Laughed, but there was no humor in it. The queen cannot show weakness. If she defends her daughter, she admits the child needs defending. She admits there is something wrong. The nobles would use it against her. He paused. Besides, the queen is not a warm woman. She rules with fear, not love. I do not think she knows how to be a mother. That night could not sleep. He kept thinking about Lyra. A little girl, born different, punished for something she could not control, surrounded by thousands of people, yet completely alone. He told himself again that it was not his business. He was nobody, less than nobody. Getting involved with the princess would only bring trouble. 3 days later, he found her crying in a storage room. Had been sent to fetch cleaning supplies from the lower levels. The storage room was supposed to be empty, but when he opened the door, he heard the sound. Small, broken sobs, the kind of crying that comes when someone has been holding it in for too long. He should have left. He knew he should have left. Instead, he stepped inside and closed the door behind him. Lyra was hiding behind a stack of boxes. Her knees were pulled up to her chest, her face buried in her arms. She was so small, so fragile. When she heard approach, she looked up with terrified eyes. "Please do not tell anyone," she whispered in. "I will leave. I am sorry, please." She thought she was in trouble, for crying, for being seen. Something broke inside's chest. He knelt down slowly, making himself small and non-threatening. He did not speak. His was still not good enough for conversation. Instead, he did the only thing he could think of. He hummed. It was an old Korean lullaby. His mother used to sing it to him and when they were small. The melody was simple and soft. It spoke of mountains and moonlight, of a mother's love that never fades. Lyra stopped crying. She stared at him with wide silver eyes, confused and curious. She had probably never heard human music before. To her, it must have sounded strange, alien. But she did not run. Finished the song and smiled at her gently. He pointed to himself. He said. Lyra sniffled, "Tahoe." He nodded. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I am Lyra." "Hello, Lyra." They sat in silence for a while. Then Lyra spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. "A lord called me the Shadow Princess today. He said I bring shame to the throne. He said my mother should have. She could not finish. Fresh tears rolled down her cheeks. His hands moved without thinking. He picked up a piece of scrap paper from the floor and began to fold it. His fingers remembered the movements from childhood. Fold here, crease there, turn it over, fold again. When he finished, he held up a small paper crane. Lyra's eyes went wide. "What is that?" Placed it in her hands. "Bird," he said in broken. "From my home we call it. Crane, it brings good luck." Lyra held the paper crane like it was made of gold. She turned it over, studying every fold, every crease. A small smile appeared on her face. The first real smile had ever seen from her. "Can you make more?" And so it began. Every few days when their paths crossed would leave small gifts for Lyra. A paper frog that could jump. A paper flower that looked almost real. A paper star that she could hang from her window. He taught her simple human games. Rock, paper, scissors made her giggle. Cat's cradle with string kept her busy for hours. He drew pictures of Earth for her. Oceans and mountains, cities and forests. A small blue planet far, far away. Lyra was hungry for every detail. She asked 1,000 questions. What did humans eat? What did they wear? Did they have families? Did parents on Earth love their children? That last question hurt to answer. Yes, told her. On Earth, parents love their children, no matter what, even if they are different, even if they make mistakes, even if the whole world says they are wrong. He touched her hand gently. "You are not broken, Lyra. You are just different, and different is not bad." Lyra looked at him with those silver eyes, and for a moment saw hope flicker inside them. "Do you promise?" she asked. "I promise." Weeks passed. Their secret meetings continued. Lyra began to change. She smiled more. She ate her meals without being forced. The servants noticed that she no longer woke screaming from nightmares. And somewhere along the way, without realizing it, Lyra stopped calling him by his name. She started calling him instead. The Korean word for father had taught it to her without thinking when explaining human families. He never expected her to use it. The first time she said it froze. "Look at this flower." His heart twisted in ways he could not describe. He thought of the family he would never have. He thought of all the reasons he should correct her, should tell her to stop, should keep his distance. But when he looked at Lyra's bright smile, he could not say any of those things. "It is beautiful," he said instead, "just like you." Lyra beamed. And in that moment, in a storage room in an alien palace 1,000,000 light years from Earth, became a father. He did not know that they were being watched. He did not know that the Queen's spies had already reported everything. and he did not know that his life was about to change forever. Queen sat alone in her private chamber, staring at the holographic report floating before her. The images showed a human servant kneeling beside her daughter. They showed Lyra laughing. They showed paper cranes and drawn pictures and small hands reaching for larger ones. The queen's face revealed nothing. It never did. She had learned long ago to hide every emotion behind a mask of ice. In the court, feelings were weapons. Show love, and your enemies would target what you loved. Show fear, and they would smell blood in the water. Had ruled for 32 years. She had survived 4 assassination attempts. She had crushed 3 rebellions. She had watched her own brother burn for treason. She knew how to survive. But watching her daughter smile at a human, she felt something she had not felt in years. She was not sure what to call it. It burned in her chest like a small flame. "Your Majesty," High Advisor entered with a bow. His voice was smooth as silk. "You have seen the reports." Closed the hologram with a wave of her hand. "I have." "The human must be dealt with. His presence near the princess is inappropriate. The court will talk." Silver eyes gleamed. "I recommend immediate execution. Quiet, clean. No one needs to know the details." Was silent for a long moment. She studied his face. He had served her for 15 years. He was clever, loyal, useful. But she had never trusted him. "The human has broken no laws," she said finally. Smile flickered. "Your Majesty, he is a primitive, a pet at best. His contact with royal blood is an insult to the throne itself. And yet my daughter is happier than she has been in years." Stood, her golden robes flowing like liquid light. "Tell me, when was the last time you saw Lyra smile?" Hesitated. "The princess is troubled. Everyone knows this. Her condition makes her emotional." "Her condition?" His voice grew cold. "You mean the fade, the curse, the shame of the royal bloodline?" She walked toward him slowly. "Tell me, do you think my daughter is cursed?" His mask slipped for just a moment. Fear flashed in his eyes. "I would never say such a thing, Your Majesty." "No, you would never say it, but you think it. The whole court thinks it." Stopped inches from his face. "You look at her and see a problem to be solved, a weakness to be hidden. You have never seen a child." She turned away. "Leave me." Bowed and retreated, but before he reached the door, spoke again. "The human will not be touched. I will handle this matter personally." That night 2 royal guards came for. He was asleep in the servants' quarters when they dragged him from his bed. They said nothing as they marched him through dark corridors. His heart pounded. This was it. Someone had seen. Someone had reported. He would be executed and Lyra would be alone again. He thought of her face, her bright smile, the way she said with such innocent joy. At least she knew, even for a little while, that someone cared. The guards brought him to a chamber he had never seen before. The door was made of solid gold. Strange symbols glowed along its surface. This was not a prison cell. This was something else entirely. The door opened and was pushed inside. Queen stood by a window, looking out at the stars. She was tall and beautiful in a way that felt dangerous. Her skin glowed brighter than any had ever seen. Her silver eyes held the cold light of distant suns. She did not turn around. She said, "Human prisoner servant," a pause, "Father." His blood ran cold. "Do you know the punishment for unauthorized contact with royal blood?" "Death," answered. His voice was steady. If he was going to die, he would die with dignity. "Death," nodded slowly. "A simple word for a simple end. One moment you exist, the next you do not. The universe continues without you." She finally turned to face him. "Does that frighten you?" Thought about the question, really thought about it. "No," he said honestly. "I lost my fear of death when I lost my sister." Something flickered in the Queen's eyes. "Yes, we know of her. The scout ship incident in your city called Soul." She walked toward him slowly. "You joined your space program because of her. You wanted revenge." "I wanted answers." And now that you are here in the heart of the empire that killed her, do you have your answers?" Was silent for a moment. "No," he admitted, "but I found something else." Stopped in front of him, "My daughter. A lonely child who needed someone to see her." The queen's mask cracked just barely. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you risk your life for her? She is not your blood, not your species, not even your concern. You could have stayed invisible. You could have survived." Looked directly into her eyes. It was forbidden, disrespectful, punishable by death. He did it anyway. "Because she is a child," he said, "and no child should feel unloved." The silence that followed seemed to last forever. Stared at him. He stared back. Two people from different worlds, separated by power and politics and a million light years of space. But in that moment, they understood each other. Turned away. "You will speak of this meeting to no one. You will continue your duties as before. But from this day forward you are assigned to the Eastern Wing, the Princess's Wing." She paused. "You will be her handler, her caretaker. You will keep her safe." Could not believe what he was hearing. "You are not going to kill me." "Should I?" His voice was cold again. "Should I take from my daughter the only person who has ever shown her kindness? Should I confirm what the court believes, that Lyra is nothing more than a burden to be discarded?" She looked at him over her shoulder, and for just a moment saw the mother behind the mask, the woman who watched her daughter suffer and could do nothing, the queen who was also a prisoner. "Keep her safe, human, make her smile, give her what I cannot." Bowed. It was the first time he had bowed willingly in this place. "I will." Nodded. "Go." Walked to the door, but before he left he stopped and spoke one more time. "She loves you, you know, even though you cannot show it, even though the court keeps you apart. She talks about you when we are alone. She says her mother is the strongest person in the universe." Did not respond. Her back was turned, but saw her reflection in the window. He saw the single tear that rolled down her cheek. He left without another word. From that night forward everything changed. Was no longer just a servant. He was Lyra's shadow, her protector, her friend. But in the darkness of the court, High Advisor was watching. And he was beginning to plan. His life transformed completely. He was no longer invisible. He walked beside Princess Lyra through the palace halls, and though the nobles still refused to see him, they could not ignore his presence. He was always there, at meals, in the gardens, during her lessons, a human shadow following the Shadow Princess. Some whispered that it was disgraceful. Others said the queen had lost her mind. A few, very few, thought it was strange that the princess now smiled so much. Lyra bloomed like a flower finding sunlight. In the mornings would teach her Korean. She loved the language. She said it sounded like music. Her favorite word was "I love you," though she did not fully understand what it meant. She just liked the way it felt in her mouth. In the afternoons, they explored the palace together, showed her secret passages that even the guards did not know. Lyra showed him the singing gardens, where alien flowers made melodies when the wind blew. They had races down the crystal corridors. They played hide and seek in the floating libraries. In the evenings, told her stories. He told her about Earth, about oceans so vast you could sail for weeks without seeing land, about mountains that touched the clouds, about cities filled with millions of people, all living and dreaming and loving under the same sky. He told her about his family, his mother who made the best kimchi in their neighborhood, his father who worked at a factory but always came home with candy in his pockets, his sister who wanted to be an astronaut just like him. "What happened to?" Lyra asked one night. They were sitting on the balcony of her room, watching 3 moons rise over the purple horizon. Was quiet for a long time. "She died," he said finally. "There was an accident. A ship from far away crashed near our city. She was in the wrong place." "Was it our ship?" Lyra's voice was very small. "Was it in ship?" Looked at her, she was trembling. Her silver eyes were filled with tears. It does not matter, he said gently. But it does. Lyra grabbed his hand. If my people killed your sister, how can you be kind to me? How can you not hate me? Pulled her close. She was so small in his arms, so fragile. He thought of all the anger he had carried for 2 years, all the hatred, all the pain. When I first came here, he said slowly, I was full of anger. I wanted someone to blame, someone to punish. But then I met you. He touched her cheek softly. And I realized something important. Hate is like poison. It hurts the person who holds it more than anyone else. He looked into her eyes. You did not kill my sister. You are just a child, an innocent child who deserves love just like she did. His voice cracked slightly. I cannot bring back, but I can make sure you never feel alone like she sometimes did. That is enough. That is more than enough. Lyra buried her face in his chest and cried. Not from sadness this time, from relief, from gratitude, from the overwhelming feeling of being truly loved. I love you, she whispered. I love you too, little star. But even in moments of peace, the universe has a way of reminding us that nothing lasts forever. One night received a message. He was walking through the lower corridors when a hand grabbed him and pulled him into a dark alcove. His heart stopped until he saw the face. Commander. She looked different, thinner, harder. Her eyes had the look of someone who had seen too much, but she was alive. Whispered, how? No time, his voice was urgent. I have been working in the Eastern facility, maintenance, invisible like you taught us. A thin smile crossed her face. I have been planning, learning, watching. She pulled out a small device. I found a way out. There is a supply shuttle that leaves in 3 days, minimal security. I have disabled the tracking systems. I have 3 seats. 2 of our crew survived. We are leaving. His mind raced. Escape, freedom, home. He had dreamed of this moment for so long. Come with us, said. This is our only chance. If we miss this window, we may never get another. Opened his mouth to say yes. Of course, yes. What else could he say? But then he thought of Lyra. He thought of her smile, her laugh, the way she held his hand when she was scared, the way she said, like it was the most precious word in any language. He thought of her sitting alone again, waiting for him, not understanding why he never came back, thinking that he had abandoned her like everyone else. I cannot, heard himself say. Stared at him, what? I cannot leave her. For a long moment said nothing. Then anger flashed across her face. Her, the alien child, are you insane? She is not your daughter, she is not even your species, she is one of them. She is a child, said quietly, a lonely child who calls me father, who trusts me, who needs me. And what about Earth? What about your duty? What about your real family? Flinched, my real family is dead, my sister, my parents, they died 2 months after I left, a sickness. I found out through intercepted communications. His voice was hollow. There is nothing waiting for me on Earth. His face softened slightly. She had not known, how could she? But there is something here, continued. There is a little girl who needs a father. I cannot save my sister. I cannot bring back my parents, but I can save her. I can be there for her. He looked at with determined eyes. Please understand. Was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was thick with emotion. You always were too soft, she shook her head slowly, too kind for this universe. She reached out and gripped his shoulder. I will tell Earth about you. I will tell them there is a man who stayed behind, a man who chose love over survival. Her voice cracked. I will make sure they remember your name. Pulled her into a hug. Thank you for everything. Do not thank me yet. She pulled back and looked at him seriously. Something is happening in the court. I have heard whispers. The High Advisor is moving against the Queen. There is going to be trouble. She pressed the communication device into his hand. Be careful, and if you ever need me, if you ever find a way to send a message, I will come, I promise. 3 days later, watched from a palace window as a small shuttle broke through the atmosphere and vanished into the stars. He did not know if made it. He might never know. But he hoped. He hoped she would see Earth again. He hoped she would breathe real air and feel real sunlight. He hoped she would live the life he had given up. Lyra's voice came from behind him. "What are you looking at?" Turned and smiled. "Just the stars, little one, just the stars." Lyra took his hand. "Tell me another story about Earth tonight." "Of course." He squeezed her hand gently. "Any story you want." They walked back to her room together, hand in hand. Father and daughter, human and... Neither of them knew that in 3 weeks everything would fall apart. High Advisor had been patient. He had watched and waited for 15 years, serving Queen while secretly hating everything she stood for. He came from an old family, older than the royal bloodline itself. In ancient times, his ancestors had ruled entire star systems. Then the dynasty rose to power, and his family was pushed into the shadows. Never forgot, and he never forgave. For years, he searched for a way to bring down the Queen. She was too strong, too clever, too beloved by the military. A direct attack would fail. A political challenge would be crushed. He needed something else, something that would turn the court against her. And then Princess Lyra was born without the light. Saw the opportunity immediately. The cursed princess, the faded bloodline, it was perfect. He spent years carefully whispering in the ears of nobles, planting seeds of doubt. The royal blood is weakening. The Queen's line is failing. Perhaps it is time for a change. But was smart. She kept Lyra hidden, kept her distant, never showed public affection. She gave the court nothing to use against her. Until the human came. Could not believe his luck when he saw the reports. The Queen's damaged daughter bonding with a primitive species. A human. A creature barely more evolved than an animal. It was the scandal he had been waiting for. But he had to be careful. Move too fast and would crush him. He needed to build his case. Gather allies. Create a situation where even the Queen could not escape. He began with the Noble Council. There were 12 great families in the empire, each one controlling vast resources and private armies. Visited them one by one, showing them recordings of Lyra and the human. He let them see the princess calling an alien creature father. He let them hear her learning a primitive language. "The royal blood is being contaminated," he whispered. "The Queen has allowed a human to corrupt her heir. What will be next? Will humans sit at our tables, share our beds, rule our worlds?" The nobles listened. They watched. They began to talk among themselves. Within 3 weeks, had 7 families on his side. He made his move at the monthly court assembly. Queen sat on her crystal throne looking down at the gathered nobles. This was supposed to be a routine meeting, trade agreements, military updates, nothing unusual. Then stepped forward. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice smooth and respectful, "I beg your forgiveness for this interruption, but I must bring an urgent matter before the court." His eyes narrowed. She knew too well to trust his politeness. "Speak." Turned to face the nobles. "My lords and ladies, I come before you with a heavy heart. I have evidence that the crown has been compromised, that the sacred trust between the throne and its people has been broken." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Hands tightened on her armrests. "As you know, Princess Lyra was born with the fade, a tragic condition, a curse, some would say." His voice dripped with false sympathy. "The court has shown patience and understanding. We have waited for the Queen to address this situation." He paused dramatically. "But instead of seeking a cure, instead of protecting the royal bloodline, our Queen has allowed something far worse to happen." A holographic image appeared in the center of the hall. Lyra and in the garden, laughing, holding hands, the princess calling him. Gasps echoed through the chamber. "A human," said, his voice rising. "A primitive, a creature we captured as a specimen, and our Queen has made him the princess's caretaker, her guardian, her father." The crowd erupted. Nobles shouted accusations. Others demanded explanations. Sat motionless, her face a mask of ice. Raised his hands for silence. I do not blame our queen entirely. She is a mother. Perhaps her love for her daughter clouded her judgment, but this cannot stand. The royal bloodline must be protected. Our traditions must be preserved. He turned to face directly. I invoke the trial of purity. The hall went silent. Even the loudest nobles stopped breathing. The trial of purity was an ancient law, rarely used in modern times. It allowed the noble council to challenge actions of the crown that threatened traditions. If invoked, the queen would be forced to publicly denounce anyone who had corrupted the throne. If she refused, she would be deposed. Finally spoke, "You dare." "I follow the law, Your Majesty, nothing more," bowed deeply. "The trial will be held in 3 days. The accused will be the human called. The charge is corruption of royal blood." He smiled, showing those 2 white teeth. "The punishment, as tradition demands, is death." Rose from her throne. Her light blazed so bright that nobles shielded their eyes. "You think you can threaten me? You think these games will give you power? I think the court will do what is right." Did not flinch. "I think they will choose tradition over sentiment, purity over contamination." He looked around at the nobles. 7 great families support this trial. The law is clear. You cannot refuse, Your Majesty. The queen's light flickered, just for a moment, just enough for to see. She was trapped and she knew it. "The trial will be held," said, her voice cold as space. "But hear me, when this is over, one of us will fall. I pray to the ancestors you are ready for that." She swept from the chamber without another word. That night guards came for. He was reading to Lyra when they burst through the door. 6 soldiers in full armor. Their faces were hidden behind silver masks. The lead guard announced, "You are under arrest for corruption of royal blood. You will be held until the trial of purity." Lyra screamed, "No, you cannot take him. He did nothing wrong." Pulled her into a hug. "Lyra, listen to me. I need you to be brave, okay? I need you to be strong." "No, no, no, no." She clung to him desperately. "Please, please do not leave me." His heart shattered into a million pieces. He looked at the guards. He looked at the little girl in his arms. He thought of running, fighting, taking her and escaping into the night. But where would they go? How far would they get? "I will come back," he whispered into her hair. "I promise, I will always come back to you." The guards pulled him away. Lyra's screams echoed through the corridors as they dragged him to the dungeons. For 3 days sat alone in darkness. He did not eat, he barely slept. He thought only of Lyra. Was she okay? Was anyone taking care of her? Did she think he had abandoned her? On the morning of the trial, they came for him. They dragged him through endless halls, past hundreds of staring faces, into the great court chamber. The entire noble court had gathered, thousands of all watching, all waiting. And there on her throne sat Queen. Her face was stone. Her eyes revealed nothing. Was forced to his knees in the center of the chamber. His hands were bound. His clothes were torn. He looked like exactly what they wanted him to be, a broken prisoner. Stepped forward, smiling triumphantly. "The trial of purity begins," he announced. "The accused stands before us, a human creature who dared to touch royal blood, who dared to call himself father to a princess of the empire." He turned to, "Your Majesty, the law requires you to pass judgment. Will you denounce this creature and preserve the purity of your throne, or will you defy tradition and face the consequences?" Said nothing. Her eyes moved from two. Her hands gripped the armrests of her throne. Smiled wider. "The silence speaks volumes. Very well, let the execution proceed." The executioner stepped forward, blade raised. And then from across the chamber, a small voice screamed. "Stop!" The scream cut through the chamber like a blade of light. Every head turned. Every voice went silent. Even the executioner froze, his weapon hanging in the air. Princess Lyra stood at the entrance of the great hall. Her small body was trembling. Her silver eyes were red from crying. But her voice was fierce. "Stop!" she screamed again. She broke free from her attendants and ran. Her feet slapped against the crystal floor as she sprinted across the massive chamber. Nobles gasped. Guards reached for her but hesitated. Nobody knew what to do. This had never happened before. Lyra threw herself in front of. She spread her small arms wide, her body forming a fragile shield between him and the executioner. "You cannot hurt him." Smile vanished. "Remove the child," he ordered. Two guards stepped forward, reaching for Lyra. She did not move. She did not flinch. She stood her ground like a soldier. "Touch me and my mother will destroy you," she said. Her voice was shaking, but her words were clear. The guards hesitated. They looked at. The queen sat frozen on her throne, her face unreadable. His jaw tightened. "This is a trial of purity. The princess has no authority here. Remove her." One guard reached for Lyra's arm. She slapped his hand away. "I am a princess of the empire," she shouted. "I am daughter of queen. My blood is royal blood, no matter what you say about the light." The chamber fell completely silent. No one had ever heard Lyra speak like this. No one knew she could. She turned to face the nobles, all of them. Thousands of silver eyes staring down at her. These were the people who had ignored her for 6 years, who had whispered behind her back, who had treated her like a disease. Now they would listen. "You all hate me," Lyra said. Her voice cracked but did not break. "You think I am cursed, broken, wrong. I have heard your whispers. I have seen your faces turn away. I know what you call me when my mother cannot hear." She pointed at, still kneeling behind her. But this man never looked away, not once, not ever. Tears streamed down her face, but she kept speaking. "He taught me to read human words. He made me toys from paper. He told me stories about a planet with blue oceans and white mountains." Her voice grew stronger. "He held me when I cried. He made me laugh when I wanted to disappear. He told me I was not broken. He told me I was perfect." She looked at with pure hatred in her eyes. "You want to kill him because he loved me. That is his crime. That is his corruption. He loved a child that nobody else would love." His face reddened. "The princess does not understand." "I understand perfectly," Lyra cut him off. "I understand that you are afraid, all of you, afraid that if a human can love and if we can be family, then everything you believe is wrong, afraid that maybe we are not so different after all." She turned back to the nobles, her small hands curled into fists. "He is not the corruption," she said. "You are, all of you, with your pure blood and your shining light and your cold, empty hearts." She pointed at the crowd. "When was the last time any of you hugged your children? When was the last time you told them they were loved? Not because they were perfect or powerful or pure, but just because they exist." Nobody answered, nobody could. Lyra walked back to and grabbed his bound hands. She looked into his eyes, the human eyes that had shown her kindness in a world of cruelty. "This is she said loudly, clearly so everyone could hear. "My father, my family." She turned to face the court one final time. "And if you want to kill him, you will have to kill me first." The silence that followed was absolute, not a whisper, not a breath. The entire court seemed frozen in time. Then Queen stood. Every eye turned to her. She descended the steps of her throne slowly, her golden robes flowing behind her. Her light blazed so bright it was almost blinding. This was not a broken woman. This was a queen. She walked across the chamber. Nobles bowed as she passed. Guards stepped aside, tried to speak, but the words died in his throat. Stopped in front of her daughter. For a long moment, mother and daughter just looked at each other. 6 years of distance, 6 years of silence, 6 years of pain that neither could express. Then knelt. The crowd gasped. A queen kneeling before anyone, even her own child, was unthinkable. It showed weakness, submission, everything had spent her life avoiding. But she did not care anymore. She pulled Lyra into her arms and held her tight, held her like she should have held her years ago, held her like the mother she had never been allowed to be. "I failed you," whispered, only Lyra and could hear. "I was so afraid of looking weak that I left you alone. I thought keeping my distance would protect you, but it only hurt you more." Lyra sobbed into her mother's shoulder. "Mama." "I am sorry," the voice broke. "I am so sorry." She held her daughter for a long moment. Then she stood, keeping Lyra close. She looked at, still kneeling on the floor. "Rise," she said. Struggled to his feet. His hands were still bound. His body was weak from days in the dungeon, but his eyes were clear. Walked toward him. The entire court held its breath. The queen said, "Human prisoner servant." She paused. "Father." She reached out and touched his face gently. It was the first time she had touched a human. The first time she had shown affection publicly since her husband died 10 years ago. "You protected my daughter when I could not," she said. "You loved her when I was too afraid to show love. You taught her to be brave." Her voice rang through the chamber. "You did what I should have done, and for that I owe you everything." She turned to face the court. "This man is not a criminal. He is not corruption. He is proof that love can cross any boundary, that compassion knows no species." Her eyes found. "And anyone who moves against him moves against the throne itself." His face went white. "Your Majesty, the trial of purity is ended." His voice was ice and fire. "The accused is innocent. The trial was a political attack disguised as tradition, and the one who orchestrated it." She nodded to her guards. "Will answer for his crimes." Guards surrounded before he could run. He struggled. He screamed. He called for his allies, but the nobles he had recruited were already backing away, pretending they had never supported him. "High Advisor," announced, "you are charged with conspiracy against the crown, treason against the royal family, and attempted murder of an innocent man." Was dragged away, still screaming. The chamber slowly returned to life. Nobles whispered. Guards relaxed. The executioner quietly disappeared. Turned back to Lyra. Her mask was gone now. She looked tired, vulnerable, human almost. "Thank you," she said softly, "for saving my daughter, for saving me." Looked at Lyra, then at, "I did not do anything special. I just loved her." Smiled. It was a small smile, awkward, like she had forgotten how. "Yes," she said, "that is exactly what you did." She took Lyra's hand in one of hers, and's hand in the other. And together, for the first time, they walked out of the court as a family. 1 year had passed since the trial. The empire was different now. Not completely changed, change takes time, but different. The old ways were starting to crack and light was coming through. Queen had made the first move. 3 months after his arrest, she announced a formal investigation into humanity, not as specimens, not as primitives, as a civilization worthy of study and respect. The results shocked many nobles. Humans had art and music and literature. They had science and medicine and philosophy. They had history stretching back thousands of years, filled with wars and triumphs and mistakes and growth. They were young compared to, yes, but they were not inferior. They were simply different. 6 months after the trial, the first diplomatic ship arrived from Earth. Watched from the palace balcony as the vessel descended through the purple clouds. It was small compared to warships, simple, functional, completely human. Beside him, Lyra bounced with excitement. "Is that really from your planet?" "Yes," said softly, "that is really from Earth." He had never expected to see anything from home again. He had accepted his new life, made peace with his choices. But seeing that ship, seeing the flag painted on its side, he felt something break open in his chest, something he had buried deep. "Are you okay?" Lyra asked, noticing his expression. Wiped his eyes quickly. I am fine, little star, just happy. The diplomatic mission was led by Commander. She had made it home. She had told Earth everything, and she had fought through bureaucracy and fear and politics to make this mission happen. When she stepped off the ship and saw waiting at the landing platform, she froze for just a moment. Then she crossed the distance between them in 3 quick steps and wrapped him in a hug. You crazy, stubborn man, she whispered. I cannot believe you are actually alive. Laughed, I cannot believe you came back. Pulled away and looked at him seriously. I made a promise. I told Earth about you. I told them there was a man who stayed behind for love. She smiled, her eyes glistening. You are a hero back home. People know your name. I am not a hero, I just... Lyra appeared beside them, tugging at sleeve. Introduce me, introduce me. Looked down at the small girl with curious eyes. This was the child had given up everything for. This was the princess who had faced down an entire court. Lyra stuck out her hand the way it taught her. Hello, I am Princess Lyra. You must be Commander, told me all about you. Shook the small hand gently. He told me about you too. He said you were the bravest person he had ever met. Lyra's face turned slightly purple, the version of blushing. Says a lot of silly things. The negotiations took months, but they were successful. Queen herself led the delegation, surprising everyone who expected her to send representatives. She sat across the table from human diplomats and spoke to them as equals. Not because she had changed completely, not because centuries of superiority had vanished overnight, but because she had seen the truth in her own palace. A human had loved her daughter when her own people would not. A human had shown more compassion than 1,000 noble bloodlines. If one human could do that, perhaps they all deserved a chance. The treaty was signed on the anniversary of the trial. 12 species sent observers. This was historic, the first formal agreement between humanity and a major galactic power. The first recognition that Earth was not just a backwater planet to be ignored or conquered. The ceremony was held in the Great Court Chamber, the same place where had nearly been executed. Now it was filled with diplomats and dignitaries from across the galaxy. Humans stood among. Different species talked and laughed and learned about each other. Stood near the back, watching quietly. He had refused every title offered to him, ambassador, advisor, lord. He wanted none of it. He was still just a man who had made a choice and lived with the consequences. You could be standing up there, you know, said, appearing beside him. They wanted to give you a medal, several medals actually. Shook his head. I did not do this for medals. Then why did you do it? He looked across the chamber. Lyra was there, standing beside her mother. She was taller now, stronger. She held herself with confidence that had not existed a year ago. When she caught Sci's eye, she smiled and waved. For her, said simply, everything for her. Followed his gaze. She has changed so much. She was always this person. She just needed someone to see it. The ceremony ended. People mingled. Earth's delegation toured the palace. Promises were made and futures were planned. Later that night, after the crowds had gone and the noise had faded, found himself in the palace garden with Lyra. They sat together on their favorite bench, looking up at the 3 moons. Lyra said, Yes, little star. Commander said you could go home now, back to Earth. Lyra's voice was carefully neutral. The treaty allows humans to travel freely. You would not be a prisoner anymore. Was quiet for a moment. She did say that. Are you going to go? He looked at her. In the moonlight, her silver eyes reflected his face back at him. She was trying to look brave, trying to hide her fear, but knew her too well. He reached out and took her hand. Lyra, do you remember what I told you the first night in that storage room, when you were crying and I made you a paper crane? You said it brings good luck. I also said something else. Do you remember? Lyra thought for a moment, then she nodded slowly. You said your home was very far away, but you were not sad about it. And do you know why I was not sad? She shook her head, squeezed her hand gently. Because home is not a place, Lyra. Home is not a planet or a country or a building. Home is people. Home is the ones who love you, he smiled. You are my home now. Your mother is my home. This palace, these gardens, these purple skis, they are my home because you are here. Tears spilled down Lyra's cheeks. You are not leaving. I am not leaving. Promise. I promise. He pulled her into a hug. I will always come back to you, little star, always. They stayed like that for a long time. Father and daughter. Human and two people who should never have met, bound together by something stronger than blood or species or distance. Above them the stars sparkled like diamonds scattered across black velvet. Somewhere out there was Earth, a small blue planet where had been born, where his sister had lived and died, where his journey had begun. He did not regret leaving it behind. Some people spend their whole lives searching for home. Some people find it in the last place they expect. Had traveled 1,000,000 light years from Earth. He had been captured, imprisoned, enslaved. He had lost everything. And in return, he had found everything. Years later, when historians wrote about the first human treaty, they would mention Queen's leadership and Commander's diplomacy. They would analyze politics and economics and strategy. But those who knew the real story would always mention one more thing. A human who knelt beside a crying child and hummed a lullaby from a distant world. A man who chose love when he could have chosen hate. A father who proved that some bonds cannot be broken by distance, by difference, or by time. And when Empress Lyra, daughter of, uniter of worlds, was asked in her old age about her greatest influence, she would always give the same answer. My father taught me that love is not a weakness. It is the only power that truly lasts. She would look at the paper crane she still kept on her desk, faded and fragile but carefully preserved. And she would smile. He was not born my father, he chose to be, and that made all the difference.